TNA Wrestling crossed the line again for another exciting edition of TNA Impact. We are on the short road to Victory Road next Friday at the Bowen Center at the Tech Point in San Antonio, Texas. It's shaping up to be another great event. Emergence was brilliant, and Victory Road is shaping up to be just as good. But before we get there, two editions of Impact Wrestling, TNA's weekly show left, which you can catch on the TNA Plus app or on DAZN or on AXS TV or Sky Channel 186. Make sure you do catch TNA Weekly. You are missing out on some great action. Now, TNA this week, obviously on tap, we have the Jordan Grace's Open Challenge. Who or from where is going to answer that open challenge? We will see. Zachary Wentz will be here, the new X Division champion. But before we get to all of that, TNA started with the System, who are seemingly back, creating raising hell. They won their match at Emergence against Santana, Joe Hendry, Matt, and Jeff Hardy. And they're basically back, and they start the show this week. And it's very important. Moose comes on the mic, and Alicia Edwards with a neck brace on. She did suffer concussion very early on in the tag team match, Emergence, or the six-woman tag match at Emergence. We wish her well. She had a neck brace on. I know she's doing concussion protocol. That is legitimate as well. And yeah, we do wish her well. We don't like the fact that injuries do happen, and sometimes they happen early on, and they do have to, take the right precautions. So hopefully Alicia Edwards won't be out too long, or we know she won't be out too long, because I'm about to tell you why in a minute. But first things first, Brian Myers and Eddie Edwards are contractually obligated for a rematch against Ace Austin and Chris Bay of Bullet Club ABC. So perhaps we'll be seeing that down the line. Moose will be cashing in his rematch clause with Nick Nemeth at Victory Road on the Friday, the 13th of September. Will that be unlucky for Moose? We'll have to wait and see. But Brian Myers Edwards will be challenging ABC at an upcoming special event. So it may not be Victory Road, but it'll be down the road that we'll see ABC, Bullet Club ABC against Eddie Edwards and Brian Myers. Now, JDC at this point. Now, they were very much talking. He's still not a part of the system. And everyone was asking, what is these relationship? He says tonight it is a big night for JDC because they've got a match with Joe Hendry and Mike Santana. If they win it, JDC will be officially a member of the system. But if they lose, JDC is out. And you know what everyone does, you know what the system does to outsiders. So they were hinting there that perhaps things would take a sour turn for JDC should the system not be successful in their tag match this evening. Now, as Alicia Edwards was saying, or as Alicia Edwards then took the mic, she then said about rematches. And she said that she doesn't have to defend the title once every 30 days. Now, coincidentally, we talk about WWE and JD McDonough and Finn Balor haven't defended their tag titles in 74 days. So we got to, play the line, right? But anyway, Spitfire come out and they want their rematch. They did say it was unfortunate to what happened to Alicia, but they want their rematch. And they've said that the system has said that they've spoken with Santino and they will get another Knockouts title shot with against Masha Slamovich and Alicia Edwards, but it is literally do or die for the team of Spitfire. Meaning, if they are unsuccessful in their match against Alicia Edwards and Masha Slamovich at Emergence, they will have to split up. Wow. Huge consequences for that Knockouts tag match at Victory Road. That is going to be an absolute, must win for Spitfire, or Spitfire will be no more. Really good way to start the show. It kind of pans out great as to what we've got coming up and what is coming up on TNA. So really good, strong opening to Impact, as we've always seen in the last few weeks as well. Some really interesting stories developing here and some must-win matches going into Victory Road in just a few short weeks' time. Speaking of interviews, as I go out the screen very, very briefly, Eric Young is here being interviewed by Gia Miller. And, obviously he was facing, he had a big battle with Macklin at Emergence. Sorry, I'm just trying to plug my light in for this. And I'm very, very unsuccessful in my attempts to do so. So just bear with me very slightly. Back. There we go. Technical difficulties, but as always, we're back, and it's not been technical for very long. Yes, Gia Miller, Eric Young, about Macklin. He says he's got one over him, but he's a guy. He says he respects Macklin actually, and he said Eric Young does have a match with Jake something later, and they have a history. And he's a bad dude, and he's going to represent this company and win tonight on TNA. So Eric Young, Jake something later on, big win over Macklin at Emergence. Something else that happened at Emergence was JBL, John Bradshaw Layfield, coming at the end of the match with Nick Nemeth, if you remember. Massive shock to end the show at Emergence last with Nick Nemeth, JBL. After that big Iron Man match, he whispered something in Nick Nemeth's ear. Basically, JBL left the building as soon as that show ended, and Nemeth has yet to reveal to anybody what he said. So it's quite interesting to see where we're going with this. JBL showing up anywhere and everywhere is very interesting. He is still under WWE Legends contract, from what I know. And WWE are very much allowing him to appear uh, on shows around the world, which is good. And obviously, they've got a relationship with TNA, so it's all good. It's all gravy on this. Now, first match we get to Kushida, Laredo Kid. Really should have been a high flying match on this. I was really looking forward to it. They started off with Kushida trying to go for the arm and isolate the arm of the Laredo Kid. There was a hoverboard. The action quickly spilt to the floor. They returned to the ring, and things were getting broke. I felt as if every time something was just about to happen, it was getting broken up. Something was happening. These two would have, Laredo Kid, high flyer, really exciting. Kushida's got the strong style, the good standing game. He's got a good ground game as well, decent in the air. But everything was just getting broken up before it can fully get going. And just at the moment when it started getting going again, out comes Josh Alexander, who just attacks everybody for no reason, absolutely no reason. And just as Josh actually goes to leave, Kushida gets on the microphone and says, I want a match right now with the walk-in weapon. And they start brawling again. And Santino has then, and Tom Hannifan on commentary has turned around and said, Santino has made the match official. So they fight their way back to the ring. The bell goes off. And now you've got one of the best, in my opinion, pound for pound wrestler, Josh Alexander in Kushida. And again, this was great. I mean, in terms of styles, in terms of chemistry, exactly. We went straight. Kushida went straight for the ankle on Josh Alexander. There was German suplexes. It kind of sets the tone of what this match was going to be. As he was going to do the hoverboard lock, Alexander avoids that lock. Actually avoids it and takes over. He used his ring entrance shirt as a weapon. Um, and he was chopping Alexander. I mean, he was chopping Kushida. There was some big, big chops on this. Huge chops on Kushida. And then literally out of nothing hits the C4 spike for the win. I would like to see that match again. If I'm being totally honest, I would really like to see that match again. I feel as if there would be a real interesting. I feel as if those two would work so well together in a longer match, 20 minutes submission, or just a standard one on one. it would work brilliantly with these two. I'd love to see it happen in TNA if at any point it can do. It would be really good. However, Josh Alexander seems to have more problems as Kushida is being helped backstage. He seems to have some sort of neck or throat injury. Joe Hendry checks on him, and as he does that, Josh Alexander walks through the curtain, and Joe Hendry was getting in Josh Alexander's face. He said it cost him the TNA World Heavyweight Championship at Slammiversary, and he said he'll never forget that, and he will make him pay. Obviously Joe Hendry coming up short against Ethan Page at No Mercy. I think it was No Mercy. May have to that last weekend. He was kind of cost as well in that particular match, but he had a really good showing on there, and he will surely be back in NXT. But right now, he's got Josh Alexander in his sights, and that's going to be interesting. I would like to see that. Those two again would work really well together. Joe Hendry's really good at a ground. He's again a good stander, good stand-up wrestling. Josh Alexander, like I said, best pound for pound wrestler in the game at the moment, in my opinion. Would be a great match should it take place. We will run down the current Victory Road card after we get through Impact. Now. Knockouts Championship Open Challenge match. It's gonna be great. You know, Jordan Grace comes out again, and we get to next, and she's also got. I think the only thing that was kind of an issue here, a little bit, was the fact that Hannah Fan on commentary already said that Jordan Grace has got an open challenge this week on NXT, and I think that kind of let it down because we kind of then knew that whoever was facing Jordan Grace in the open challenge was going to lose. I just perhaps if they said something along the lines of if Jordan Grace wins this, she will have an open challenge on NXT. Maybe that would work. Anyway, doesn't make a difference. And the weird thing was, outcome Miss NXT Ariana Grace, who is Santina Morella's daughter, and she said she knows everybody wishes it was her, but she is the liaison between TNA and NXT, meaning we're going to get an NXT challenger for Jordan Grace's Knockouts Championship, and it was Carmen Petrovich, very promising talent in NXT as well. Rosemary in this match was shown in the rafters. Now, Rosemary's been on NXT as well, but is there something brewing there between her and Jordan Grace? Because she's been around Jordan Grace quite a bit. If you remember, she was around with the Ash by Elegance situation. I know that was more chasing them out, but she's been there. But does she have an ulterior motive? And is that ulterior motive Jordan Grace? Something to think about as we lead towards Victory Road and anywhere else. However, Carmen Petrovich comes out with her katana sword in hand to answer, and they shook hands at the start, so a very nice, respectful start. There was a few bits of martial arts from Carmen. She's a good martial artist, so again, it gives Jordan Grace a different opponent in someone that's very well sort of rafted in martial arts. And again, this match was very good. There was a close 2 count during the break, which we didn't see. There was a lot of kicks from Carmen, and she really did go to town with her kicks on Jordan Grace. But Jordan Grace ended up kind of hulking up to a degree. After she kind of hulked up after hitting a lot of kicks, she then hit the end, the Juggernaut Driver, which was very good from Jordan. I do like Jordan Grace. It was really good. However, that isn't the end of what happened. When this match finished, the lights went out. They come back on, and Jordan Grace is laid out with a pillow next to her. Now, Rosemary's laughing in the rafters, and it got me thinking, and bearing in mind NXT this Tuesday, is there something with Rosemary, and Wendy Chu. And is that who's going to bring the open or answer the open challenge on NXT this week? Wendy Chu's gone through a massive character redevelopment. She's a bit more the way that Rosemary is, and it makes a lot of sense. Um, could that happen next week? Are we going to see Wendy Chu take the Knockouts challenge, open challenge? Is there something going on with her and Rosemary? So much, discussion points there is, as I said, has Rosemary got an ulterior motive? And is that ulterior motive Jordan Grace? Although she has helped her in recent weeks, especially with Ash by Elegance and George the Iceman. Is that something? Has there been an ulterior motive all along with Rosemary? And does that ulterior motive contain a Knockouts championship? We'll have to wait and see. Now, ABC Bullet Club Tag Team Champions had a great match with the newest kind of first class, obviously not Rich one. It was Casey Navarro, someone who I've been watching loads over here in the UK. He's done a lot of progress shows. He is a top talent. And as ABC are cutting a promo, it was pre-taped promo. It was interrupted live by AJ Francis and Casey Navarro. And they said that basically the match at the System that should be coming up at Victory Road, apparently, they shouldn't be worried about that because next week on TNA, it's going to be ABC versus First Class again next week on Impact for the Tag Team Championships at Bullet Club ABC. The new First Class next week on Impact. Really, really, really looking forward to that. What should be a great contest. So we will wait and see what happens next week. Now, and two new acquisitions to talk about in TNA. Heather Reckless being one standout talent. I believe potentially debuts next week or this week. I can't remember if she debuts. I've got to check my notes. I'll check my notes in a minute. But Heather Reckless will be debuting on TNA or returning to TNA. I know she's worked a couple of shows before. She has signed, as has the former Xia Li in WWE from WWE. Now, Xia Li, in my opinion, never got the opportunity for whatever reason in WWE. It never worked out. That is a talent. That is a severe talent for TNA. That takes that knockouts division and puts it on another level. Huge gets for TNA here. The knockouts division is getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And you have to credit TNA for this. They are two names that can ultimately, in terms of in-ring ability alone, can really, not that the knockouts division needed a step up, but it gives it one. And I'm really looking forward. I mean, Heather's a great wrestler. Xia Li, obviously known from WWE. I'm really looking forward to seeing that match. Well, those two, not that match, but those two in the ring work for TNA. It's two big gets for TNA wrestling. Huge. And obviously, there is that WWE partnership that Xia Li could still be a part of, with this. But huge gets for TNA, and I can't wait to see them in action in the next few weeks for sure. But congratulations, TNA. Welcome aboard, Heather Reckless and Xia Li. I can't wait for the debuts or the re-debut in some cases. Tag team action next. Zachary Wentz and Speedball Bailey, an unusual team, but a very exciting team again. Zachary Wentz, high flyer, exciting. Speedball Bailey, again, they've got the kicks, you've got the standing, you've got the high flying, you've still got that bit of ground and pound about him as well. They were going against the good hands. Zachary Wentz did come to the ring first. He was, talks about he's thinking his career was over actually not too long ago, and he worked his arse off and to say that to get to the X Division Championship and to win it at Emergence in a brilliant Ultimate X match. Mike Bailey did come out and congratulate him, but did say he would be cashing in and invoking the rematch clause at Victory Road. So Mike Bailey, Zachary Wentz, one-on-one at Victory Road for the X Division Championship should be an absolute show stealer of a match at Victory Road. Looking forward to that one next Friday. And again, I will plug it, TNA Plus app. For that, you could Thriller TV as well, but get yourself on the TNA Plus app for all things at TNA. However, they were interrupted by Jason Hotch and Josh Schuyler. Jason Hotch saying he was robbed at Emergence as well in their Ultimate X match, and they started attacking Wentz and Bailey. And then Santino Marella makes this a tag match. It didn't go massively long. There was already, there was already kind of, they already got attacked, did Bailey and Wentz. So there was that kind of, they was already weakened before the match started. Wentz did fight back and he laid out Sky and Hotch in the ring, but and then Bailey and Hotch started things off as the two legal men, but then Skyler got the tag quite early and took over. Um, and eventually, Mike Bailey got the hot tag to Zachary Wentz, and then he hit the finisher to pick up the win. And Mike Bailey hands him the X Division Championship, which is interesting because obviously they will be going for it. Mike Bailey rematch clause at Victory Road for the X Division Championship. So in good times for this X Division, but Zachary Wentz already got enemies queuing up, and one of the enemies being the former X Division champion, Mike Bailey. Now, Steph DeLander, Matt Cardona situation, this rolls back what a long time now. The wedding between PCO and Steph DeLander interrupted by Cardona after they had got married. He hit him with a brick. The whole honeymoon where he had him tied up. The match at Emergence that didn't happen because Cardona wasn't, fit, cleared. So Steph DeLander's at the back with PCO. She's calming him down. She wants to confront Matt Cardona by herself. Now that then the show went to a commercial. When it come back, the connection between Rosemary and Wendy Chu aired. Now again, go back to that match earlier on. Jordan Grace beat down Pillow, Wendy Chu, Rosemary on NXT. There's Allegiance, Knockouts Championship being the forefront. Jordan Grace, Knockouts Open Challenge this Tuesday on NXT. Put two and two together, you come up with Chu and Rosemary. Then there was it was kind of weird because as DeLander was going to confront Cardona, there was this another video package with Rosemary. Well, she was just acting like normal Rosemary, but she was referencing Wendy Chu and questioning whether she could trust her. Again, interesting. Tuesday, Knockouts Championship, Open Challenge. I'm not going to keep saying it, but also Rosemary and an ulterior motive being a Knockouts Championship. We'll see. We will see. Finally, we go back to the Impact Zone. Steph DeLander makes her way to the ring. She's basically bringing up Cardona, ruining a lot of her business lately. She demands that Cardona come out, and he did. He reminds DeLander of a contract that they each signed on March the 13th of 2023, the day that Cardona found her in Australia and plucked her from obscurity. He said that he promised to change her life and give her a career. Well, he's done exactly that. He brought her to the US. He got her booked, got her an action figure, magazine cover, and a job in TNA. He paid for the tickets and hotels. He holds up his contract. He holds up his end of the contract. Now it's her turn. She's his property and he owns her. DeLander says that it's true, but she's worked hard in good matches. She would have been a star without him, and the contract means nothing to her. Now he gets in her face at this point. She starts crying. PCO comes out to run off the show. I don't know. Comes off to run him off. Sorry. I'm still not convinced with DeLander. I still think this is something not quite right there. I don't know. But in other news with Steph DeLander, she has apparently the contract she's got with TNA runs through to the end of 2024. So we've still got a good few months left for Steph DeLander. I'd like to see her in I know she's in with this with PCO and whatever at the moment. I would like to see her in some matches, more matches. I think she is a good talent. She could quite easily be a big threat to Jordan Grace if they were to lock horns again in there. So I'd like to see more of that side of Seth Delander as after this bit with PCO and Cardona finishes. Now, next week on TNA, loading up the show, the Hardys next week against Brian Myers and Eddie Edwards. They cut a little promo. They want the TNA World Tag Team Championships to prove they're still the greatest of all time. But next week, they'll have to go through Brian Myers and Eddie Edwards. I'm looking forward to that match already next week. Should be a great match. Hardy's back in TNA. They get the Rockstar reaction. They've still got it in the ring as a team. It's so good to see. And next week, the system will pose a big threat for the Hardys. But we've got to wait a week, unfortunately. That's the unfortunate bit. Eric Young, Jake Something next. Two guys that should really, really be a great, great match. There was Jake Something didn't take long on this. He went straight to work on Eric Young. He drove his shoulder into the midsection of Young repeatedly, the veteran of the game. Something hit a big power bomb actually earlier doors in this for a two. He got really sort of frustrated that as long as the match was going on, he couldn't finish off Eric Young, and he was getting more frustrated and more frustrated and more frustrated. And then Young started to fight back with a discus lariat. He did try. He looked for the Death Valley driver. He got it eventually for a close two. He calls for the elbow, but Jake Something stops him. And eventually, Eric Young hits the power driver for the win on this. But that wasn't all. As Eric Young tried to show respect to Something, Jake Something beats down Eric Young. Started beating down Eric Young. Jake Something doesn't want to hear it. Out comes Steve Macklin to create mayhem. He runs off and he runs Jake Something off to make the save for the man that they just had a battle of respect at Emergence. Seemingly Macklin respects Young, but Jake Something doesn't. Where does that lead us to Macklin and Something at some point during TNA in the coming weeks or maybe even at Victory Road? Yet to be decided, but we will see. Now, main event time. Moose and JDC defending because they've got nothing to defend. Taking on Joe Hendry, Mike Santana. But first things first, we go backstage and catch up with Joe Hendry, Gia Miller. He's basically saying he can't deny the momentum he's riding and asks for her to excuse him because he's got a TNA World Championship to continue chasing. And you do have to wonder, is the chase going to be better than the eventual end when he does win the championship? Because my opinion, he will win the TNA World Championship, potentially at Bound for Glory. Or we've already had Bound for Glory. No, we haven't, have we? I can't remember. Sorry, it's been a long week. But anyway, whether or not he's going to be the victor, I think he'll win it at that point. But it's just whether the chase is going to be better than the actual, victory that he'll once have. But remember, in this particular match, Moose and JDC, if JDC and Moose win this match, JDC will officially be in the system. It's going to be really, really good. And they say if the system lose, obviously JDC will be an outsider and will face those consequences. They win, he'll be a part of the system. When the show does return, actually, they took a break before this match started. Now, if you remember, we did mention it. Heather Reckless is announced. Her debut is next week against Giselle Shaw. Now, just quickly about that. Giselle Shaw has requested her release from TNA Wrestling and has been granted. So interesting to see what happens. Giselle Shaw come over here for Revolution Pro Wrestling a couple of weeks ago. It was fantastic to see her in the ring. Big loss to TNA with Giselle Shaw. So kind of granted the Heather Reckless will probably win that match next week. Nevertheless, we wish Giselle Shaw very, very well. She's a top talent, and wherever she goes, I'm sure she'll be a success. But she does have Heather Reckless next week, and Heather Reckless was being interviewed, and that was interrupted by Ash by Elegance and George Iceman to interrupt. Giselle Shaw does come in and ends up slapping Ash by Elegance. And at that point, they also announced that Steve Macklin will go one-on-one with Hammerstone next week on TNA Wrestling. That is going to be brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. As the system make their way to the ring, as does Joe Hendry. This match was really interesting, actually. They've started the match off and it was going through the motions. All four men started brawling at one point. And then Josh Alexander decided to settle himself down on commentary, which is doesn't always, bode well for, in this case, for Josh Alexander. Um, and the match started to calm down, and eventually Joe Hendry was in the middle, hitting a big fall away slam. He follows up with one on Moose, does the same as JDC. Hendry was was getting the beating on this for a little bit. As Alexander was bickering with Hanifan on commentary, and Ray Weld was playing the kiss ass, which was quite good actually. Alicia Edwards was getting involved. They did start taking over again on Joe Hendry after Joe Hendry started fighting back because of it. Finally gets the hot tag to Santana. He starts coming in and does what Santana does, roll in buck 50. You know, was crazy. But then Santana was basically telling Hendry to focus on the match and forget about Josh Alexander. But as soon as he does that, Josh Alexander pops up from the commentary desk and low blows Hendry. Um, and as Santana does, he does actually see that. He does splashes him from the ring to the outside. But as he gets back in the ring, Moose hits a huge spear and covers Santana to pick up the victories and pick up the victory for the system, and thus JDC is now an official member of the system. But to close the show, Nick Nemeth is shown watching on his smartphone. Not too bad, Moose said, not too bad. He congratulates them on the system reboot and basically and tells basically Moose all he had to do was challenge him. He wants to fight the very best uh, since day one, which is why he kicked Moose's teeth down his throat. And he's going to do it again at Victory Road, which is going to be great. But next week on TNA, we've got the Hardys and Brian Myers versus Eddie Edwards, and the Hardys versus Brian Myers and Eddie Edwards. Yes, ABC defending the TNA championships against First Class. Heather Reckless debuts against Giselle Shaw, and Macklin will go one-on-one with Hammerstone. What is going to be a stacked fight, the go-home show towards Victory Road. Do not forget you can watch TNA Plus app. Get it downloaded, get it subscribed. Watch everything TNA. TNA Impact is on AXS TV over in the States. It is on TNA Plus app, which you should get. It is also on DAZN streaming and Sky Channel 186. This has been the Impact Review, another solid show for TNA on the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast with me, your host, the frontman, Adam Cousins. And until next time, everybody, buckle down, stay safe, and goodbye.